Recently, I got a call to visit a patient in the emergency department. Her family had called in and had requested that a chaplain visit for prayers and let us know that the person was a born again Christian. And I thought, great, okay, fine. And so I went down and I visited with the person. And I want to say this, I was so grateful that they had this faith, this identity as a born again Christian that they were relying on. It was so powerful and wonderful, and it did not impair anything that I, who may not identify myself in that way, it didn't impair any of the services or the care I might have provided. In fact, when the family came in and as a group, I was so grateful that they had this strong faith to lean into, to rely upon, and to know that it was part of this journey that their loved one was on, and to talk about how it had meaning for them. Chaplaincy is a wonderful profession, I'll call it, a ministry, if it's right for you. And one of the things I like about it the most is that when I walk into a patient's room, I have no agenda. I know what it is I'm there to do. But it is not to proselytize, it is not to convince them of what I believe, or for them to convince me of what they believe. Although if they want to try, that's fine. It might be important for them. What is most important is to be there and help them to enter into that place where they find the most comfort, the most support. And this was not an isolated incident by any means. To be with people in those moments of trial when they are looking for what it is to help them through, that they know is there, or they maybe have forgotten, or whatever the case may be. And I thought a little bit later on that what would it have been like had I walked in there and they said, "Well, what is your denomination? What is your belief?" And I said, "Well, I'm Presbyterian. That tells you something about me." And then I said, "And I'm also a queer person who was ordained as an openly gay person, and that tells you something about me and what I believe." What if that was how it had gone? And they said, "Well, before we can talk to you, we have to change your heart and your soul." What purpose for them or for me might that have served? In fact, what God would put us in a place like that where the persuasion or the change of people's minds came before the compassion and the caring for the one before us who was suffering that already believed in God, from somebody that already believed in God. This is one of the most wonderful things about chaplaincy is the presence that you come to know when you walk in a hospital, when you're in a patient's room, even later as you reflect on just how present God is, and in so many wonderful ways, powerful ways, that there is no gap between God and God in our lives. It just isn't there. We may think we create it, we may think there is, but the truth is that's just our thinking. Whenever we turn to that place where in our lives God is, God is there. And for me, that's what we share in so many different ways. We do not have to persuade anybody to be different before we can get along. We do not have to get people to change their minds before we can agree on something fundamental that is good for all. We don't have to win a contest of who got the most converts or who got the most whatevers. We just have to do what is to many the golden rule and to so many others of us the great commandment: to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might in the ways you do, and to make sure you love one another as yourself. There would have been no accomplishment, no achievement, no presence of God in a debate at that time about which God, quote unquote, was right, which religion, quote unquote, was better than the other. No. And the fear we use sometimes, or people use sometimes to make these arguments, can never be a part of what is God's love for us, no matter how we identify ourselves, no matter how we come together. And if the goal isn't for the goodness of all, some of the taxes I pay, for example, don't necessarily help me, they help someone else. That's how we share. If it isn't for the goodness of all, That's what we have to pay attention to. And that's what I think we need to change. And thank you to so many who every day do things that are there for the goodness of all, good to help others. Thank you. And thanks for the time listening to this little video that I felt I needed to make on a day like this when so many thoughts are going through my mind. So I share them with you. Have a great day. And thanks again for taking a look. Bye.